Hey everybody, it's Phina and Shivoso with our full moon report, full moon to the new moon. It's August 19th, and so we're heading into we're in the middle of some pretty intense stuff for sure. And I can't wait to hear what Phina has to say about her sense of what is coming up for all of us and see how that reflects with the astrology. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring Phina in and see how she's feeling about things. How you doing, Phina?
Hey, it's so funny that for the first time since so long I felt a nervousness, and I have no real clue as to why I am feeling that. So it's okay, I'm just going to going to roll with that. So thank you, Sheep,
Yeah,
for that
I just
intro.
I just realized this is our first report separate again because we just got done. I just got done with my Europe trip last
Yeah.
week. I'm back, and so this is the first time we're doing it actually on Zoom. So it's a little different than sitting in the same room.
That could be it, that it's a shift back from doing the report together, sitting next to each other, to this. I don't know yet. I'm not sure what it is. But anyhow, this reading is not about me. This reading is all about you. And in a moment, Shiv is going to bring to you the astrology and how the planets are influencing us. And I bring you an intuitive report by feeling out the energy and receiving messages from my guides. And I'm going to start with the energies that are up now. It's a little bit planetary because we have been getting a lot of storms from the sun, so a lot of energy coming in that could make us feel tired. And then yesterday I felt the energy of the upcoming full moon. And I was here with my friend Sarah, and she also lives here at Pachamama, and we were suddenly feeling this surge of energy, and we were cleaning out do you remember, Chief, that we have a pool here and that there's all furniture standing around? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yesterday we suddenly felt like, oh, okay, we're going to clean it out, and we made it until, I don't know, it was almost 12 o'clock, I guess.
Oh
And
wow.
this is for women who are normally in bed by well, maybe 10 o'clock. So I have the feeling that the full moon is also influencing us in terms of energy. Also, even during the day, because we are having these surges and it's influencing our bodily system, and that is because our body is more dense. What I mean by that is that the molecules of our body, being physical, are moving more slowly than the etherical particles. So to integrate energy into the body always takes a lot of work. So if you're feeling that, don't be worried. If you're feeling fluctuations, take really good care of yourself with extra water, and also good nutrition. I don't know how it is for you, but I've also felt I really wanted to make a change in my diet. I was already eating quite healthily, and then in the weekend I would have a rather cheat meal, like with some chippies or cookie or a snack, and I'm just not feeling that anymore. I've been eating my food raw, so mostly veggies and fruits, and it's giving my body a boost. It's just asking for it, so that is really really nice. Okay, then I'm going to move on with the points that I have written down during these 2 weeks for you. Your shadow has a purpose. Now, this is a very interesting one. Most of the times we see our shadow as a very negative aspect. We already talked about this the last reading. Um, And it can be, you know, when we come from our shadow and we communicate from there, we can hurt each other, and it can have negative influences on us. And I was sitting in the car with a friend, and he was saying like, okay, yeah, I'm half light, half dark, and sometimes I just wanna roll with that. And I said, well, for me, there's a big difference in how to move with my shadow, and I really could feel the difference this week. Um, when you come from your shadow and you become reactive, then you feel it in your system, but you can also use that energy, for example, anger, to integrate it, and then it can give you a boost to um, to realize more strength within yourself. And maybe this sounds vague if I'm saying it this shortly, but what I really meant by it is I was dancing and I wanted to express some anger, and then within this dance I just felt this power, this, because I was moving with it, I was moving through it, and it gave me actually a lot of like, okay, you have a lot of power inside you, and this has nothing to do with communicating this to another. It's really a process you can do with yourself. And for me, dancing is such a medicine, you know. So yeah, your shadow can also help you build your strength. Then we're coming back to focusing on love. So even though we can move through fear, anger, other emotions, sadness, of course, um, it's good to make a daily practice to connect with our hearts. Like I said last time, we are really moving through a valuable change in this time, and connecting to our hearts makes us connect to a beautiful reality, creating a new reality together in a loving way. And that doesn't mean that there's not going to be any other emotions, but it is helping us to, yeah, to set a good frequency. And that is going to lead me into the next point, which is shifting your frequency. I actually already explained it a bit because, for example, when you're feeling angry, you can push it down, but it will arise and it will still be there in your body. But when you work with that, and for example, you go running or you go dancing, then you can release it, and then it's easier to tap into more positive frequencies. So, for example, you go running, you go dancing, and then release this other emotion, then you can sit your ass down and connect to your heart and to feel what that brings. This can help you make a shift, because it is really true that with our frequency we can attract different things in other people, in situations. When we're coming with a frequency of anger, when someone's is standing in front of you really angrily, then you feel that. And we have been taught in this world that we are the physical only. And for sure, the people that are watching us, they, for sure, you have a little bit more knowledge, but that is a total lie. We are not just the physical, we're also the emotional and the etherical. So, yeah, to be aware that we can shift our frequencies and to work with that as well. And then I have a really beautiful one, is standing for your truth. Of course, what is true in the eye of the beholder. You know, truth can come from a perspective when it's tainted with emotion. And the truth I am talking about is more coming from intuition. So when you practice on a daily basis your intuition and learn how to ask yourself, your heart, your higher self for guidance, then it becomes easier and the answers will become more clear for you to follow the guidance. And you can even use that in your standpoints in situations. You really feel out, okay, how am I feeling with that? And what is emotion and what is not? And yeah, you can always ask your guides for a different perspective and see what they will bring to the table. And then, last but not least, I have retrieving your energy. Energies are quite chaotic at this time, so it can be really helpful to, yeah, to withdraw yourself at times, especially if your life is feeling chaotic as well. It's a really good practice to sit yourself down and to ask your energy to come to you. If you guys want, I can do another video on how to pull your energy back. And this week it also came up in relation to sexual connections. Now, if we go into the past, uh, and for the most of us, it's true that we have several sexual connections. And that lingers on. Whenever you make a sexual connection with someone, you also bond energetically. And when you never release that, that line stays open. And that can be an energy leak. So it is advised at this time in multiple ways to retrieve your energy. And I'm asking also to be very mindful with that. It's a technique that you really have to own, because it can also really influence the system of the other person that you're working with. So I always go about my energy work really ethically. And please let me know if you're interested in knowing how to pull your energy back. And what this can do for you is actually getting your energy back. Like I was feeling, like my energy was outwards, and like I said, it made me feel like, okay, it's a little bit chaotic. So I went into my own bubble and I retrieved my energy. And my guides also said like, okay, really see who is still connected to you and give that energy back in loving kindness, and also retrieve your energy for yourself. And then what is really important also for the feminines is to clear out your womb at this time. And you can do that with this process. So by clearing out all the sexual connections that you've made in the past, a lot of energy when you're pulling it back, asking for your energy back, you can gain a lot of power within yourself. So let me see that I'm not missing anything. Ah, yeah. With retrieving your energy, you can also release whatever is not flowing for you. So this can be connections, places, ties to other people, relationships that are not flowing. And most of the times when we release, we get a breather. So even if you're in a household, in a relationship, take a breather. Let's say you're head to head and you're like, oh, we're not getting out of this. You can always take time out by saying, hey, okay, right now it is like this. Let's come back to each other within half a day, talk about it then. Take a breather, release. And that's the same thing with retrieving your energy, is that you will get your breather and the other person as well, because you're not so fully connected. And most of the time the mind is making up stories like, oh, it has to be like this and it has to be like that. But when we release, suddenly there's flow. So I would love for you to experiment with that. And like I said, be careful and mindful of the other person and yourself while retrieving your energy. So I'm just going to make the follow-up video, and you can find it on my channel. It's called Zana Healing. and the title will be Retrieving Your Energy Mindfully. So you know that. Yeah? Okay, well, I'm really, really curious to how that connects to the planets, and there's no better person to tell us than you. So
Oh, thanks.
let us know.
Yeah, I really want to encourage and encourage people to watch the video that she makes because um it is a really chaotic time. It's a really intense time. And just having one practice or one technique of pulling our energy in and quieting down and kind of setting down the weight of the world for a moment can be really restorative and really necessary to navigating the intensity that's just part of this ride that we're going through. It's like it's nonstop. It's going to go on for years. So it's kind of like, okay, we're in it for a long haul, and we get intense moments like this full moon coming up. That is like stacked on top of already intense moments. It's been pretty nonstop, and we're getting a little peak here right at the new moon. I mean, right at the full moon. So it's really, really important to have some kind of practice. And I'll get to it, but there's uh definitely some Venus stuff up. So a lot of what Phina was just mentioning is kind of like resonates around the Venus, the love, the sexuality, the um and that kind of stuff. But let's just start right off with the full moon, planetarily. What's really intense about this full moon is that on August 19th, at least here on the West Coast of the United States, we get two what we call T-square configurations, where there's an opposition between two planets and then a square to another point, right? And right at the full moon, we have two of these going on at once. Now, these are T-squares are tense because they're two squares and an opposition, right? So the opposition is kind of pulling on each other. Those 2 points or planets or archetypal energies are trying to find some kind of compromise or find out which one's going to be kind of like the stronger force, right? And they use the square down to whatever point or planet or archetypal energies at the bottom of the squares to kind of resolve that. There's a lot of movement in there, and so it can be kind of a little like, she mentioned surges. Well, as this full moon comes on, we're going to feel these surges of energy, and that can be either positive or negative. You can get angry, you can get irritated, you can get frustrated, you can get lethargic, kind of overwhelmed, just like I can't do anything. I can't focus. There's just too much tension in the air, right? And so those are those times when it's like, okay, quiet down, set it down. Don't try to fix everything. Don't try to mentally fix everything because it is Mercury retrograde. And our mind is kind of like going over things and going backwards through things and maybe not quite as clear or as decisive as we'd like. So these T squares, we have, of course, the sun opposite the moon. That's the full moon, right? And that is square to the planet of disruption, change, explosive, unexpected left turns of the plot, Uranus. So we've got this full moon with a square to Uranus. And so we've got the zoomy energy of a full moon, always kind of a big deal. And that full moon is actually going from Leo to Aquarius, right? Moon's in Aquarius, future thinking, ruled by Uranus. Leo, let's go. It's about me. This is personal, right? These are all fixed signs, and it's kind of like that T square is kind of insisting on my way, whatever my way is, right? So there's a lot of ego involved in this T square. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on how conscious you are of your own trips, of how you if you're not including the other in your win-win situations. So that we have this pretty intense T square happening on the full moon with the full moon. And then at the same time, Venus is opposite Saturn and square to the already pretty intense Mars Jupiter conjunction, which has been going on for a while, right? We've already actually passed the peak, so it's slightly separating, but Mars and Jupiter are still together. And so Mars, aggression, assertion, courage, direction, what I want to do, impulsivity, Jupiter, expanding everything, making everything seem possible, optimistic, uh, sometimes overdoing it, right? So here's you got the square going to Saturn. So what's Saturn going to do? Well, Saturn's going to put restraints on it. It's going to say, wait, do it responsibly. Make sure you're getting this right, or else you will suffer consequences. Don't be too impulsive. Don't overthink you can get away with something that you can't get away with, because Saturn will like crush that. And Venus, since it's opposite Saturn and it's square to the Jupiter Mars conjunction, is making it about Venus stuff. Venus, relationships, love, sexuality, beauty, harmony, um, the things we love, all the things we love, you know, including the feelings we love, but the people we love, the intense relationships we're in. So Saturn makes that like, okay, we're going to take this really seriously. We're really going to be thinking about having some confidence and some like movement in our relationships. Anything that's got to change for the better is going to be coming up. And whether you're in a relationship or not, there's something I want to mention is Venus is also about the relationship to yourself, your self-love and your self-care. So Saturn is saying, hey, I need to take care of myself better. And Mars and Jupiter are saying, here's the motivation to do it. Here's the juice. You can do this. Yeah, we can do. Because Mars and Jupiter, even though it can be aggressive and violent, it's mostly beneficial because Jupiter's kind of a friendly planet. It's a beneficial planet. And so is Venus. Saturn's pretty heavy, but he's just trying to get you to do it right. So that's a pretty positive T square, although it's pretty motivating and it's all happening on the 19th, right? Um, Now, some of these aspects will obviously continue on as a wave, right? So there's a peak, and it just happens to be that this full moon, everything kind of comes together into this pretty intense moment right around that day. But there's, opportunities for this all to be worked through over a week period, right? So those are the T squares. What's really interesting is if we throw in a couple of the asteroids, because asteroids have an influence. They're just not generally mentioned, but we have three of them involved. We have Vesta, which is the Vestal Virgins. It's about the feminine devotion and dedication to the sacred. It's about sticking with something because it's important, because it's vital to the long-term benefit of all. And that's generally thought of as a feminine aspect. So there's bringing in some of this like feminine to these T squares, right? So let's see. We got Venus, let's see, we have the Sun conjunct Vesta, and we have it also conjunct to let's see, we got Sun conjunct Mercury. Oh, that's right. The Sun will be conjunct Mercury right around the 19th, really close. Mercury retrograde complicates things because it's retrograde, which means sometimes we're going to feel like we know what we're thinking about, and other times we're going to have to change our mind. It's a lot of it's going to be reviewing and kind of rethinking some of our relationship stuff. It's just what it is um, for this full moon. So you add in Vesta and you got that sacred, right? You got the sacred thrown in there. And then if we add in Pallas Athene, which is another asteroid, it's in Scorpio and it's on the full moon. It creates a grand square with the full moon going here. And this is Uranus Pallas. And there's a cross. So they call this a grand square, grand cross. And that's a moment when our genius can show up. Because Pallas Athene is the goddess of strategic thinking for the good of all. Once again, it's a feminine asteroid, fat feminine energy there, but the wisdom, the Sophia of the feminine. And so this full moon, even though it's really intense, it's actually really a caring and forward thinking and positive and nurturing intensity. It's for our good. So it can show up that way if you want it to. That's just the full moon. We haven't even got everything here. Also on the full moon, we have Mercury retrograde trine to Chiron retrograde. And that's going to be going on from August 19th till September 7th. So it's kind of a long-term thing, but it really is, it's kind of like coming right along. And Chiron is the healer. So even though it's all retrograde and it gets to do it one more time as things go forward, it'll do another trine. That trine is really beneficial and it's trying to help us be more healing. So I think this is in some ways a really remedial and beautiful full moon. It's intense and it's going to take work. Saturn's going to push us. These grand trines are going to push us to do the work. It's really a good time to show up. And partly like back to the meditation thing or the slowing down or pulling your energy inward for moments, you're going to be pulled outward a lot and it can get really scattered. You can get overwhelmed with all of the things that need to be said or done or taken care of. Just trust the universe is giving you a heads up and giving you an opportunity to do things, but there's a time period. It doesn't have to happen on the 19th, but it's going to trigger things. You'll be paying attention and you notice what gets triggered in your relationships, in your finances, in your beauty and harmony, in your life. We're going through a evolution in culture, and this is worldwide. Obviously, these are just the mundane aspects. So it's worldwide, right? So moving along, we get through that. Let's see, we have the Jupiter Mars, something that she mentioned was standing for your truth. Jupiter Mars, stand for your truth. Responsible self-care, like I said, is the Venus opposite Saturn. This is all around the full moon. So if we move on, we have Jupiter square to Saturn, which is part of the full moon T square, but it actually goes on from July 27th, has been going on until September 11th, all the way into the next cycle, right? Next moon cycle, but it's exact on August 19th. So that Jupiter square Saturn is expansion, responsibility, expansion limits. It's brakes and accelerator on, but it also can be really done well because it's sort of like this kingly restraint and yet confidence. Or it can be really frustrated because you just want to blow up and go wild and something is in the way. Something's limiting you. Saturn's always putting limits on things, but it's not against us. Only children don't want to have any limits. And so you got to see if your inner child is like, I just want to do what I want to do without any limits. But that's not the way it works in the real world. What else do we have? Okay, so August 22nd, moving right along a little bit, we have this Mars square to Venus, which is part of the T square, but it's been going on from August 14th to August 31st. So Mars, masculine, forward energy, Venus, caring, nurturing, loving, sexuality. A square is kind of like there needs to be some movement there. There's a choice there. There's a lot of energy. There's some tension. So it can be a very passionate time. It could also be a very argumentative time between the masculine and feminine. Kind of like, oh, we're trying to find harmony, but we're both really in our poles, right? So that polarity can create magnetism or it can create division. It's kind of up to you. That's also kind of peaking around the full moon, but it actually peaks exactly on the 22nd. Like I said, there's a wave. What else we got going on? Venus trine to Uranus, which is exact on August 27th. But it goes from August 21st, so not too long after the full moon, to August 31st. So the whole end of August has this Venus trine to Uranus. So Uranus, once again, disruptive, change, innovation, genius, revelations. Venus, our beauty, sexuality, relationships, finances, things we think are beautiful. Trine. Oh, it's kind of harmonious. It's like, oh, it's kind of opening us up to change, opening us up to beneficial movement in our relationships, our finances, however that shows up for you, or all of the above, right? It isn't just our intimate relationships, it's our relationship with ourselves, it's our relationship with nature, it's the way we feel in connection with anything. And we often have a lot of connection with money. Money is why it is part kind of like not necessarily a Venusian thing, but our finances are how we feel about our money, how we spend our money, feeling generous. So Uranus trine Venus can encourage us to overspend. So watch out for your budget there, but it'll be on good stuff, new clothes, flowers for your love, flowers for yourself. August 29th, Venus enters Libra. Yay! So it's been in Virgo all month, and that's been kind of like making it feel more like precise. It kind of works with its Venus opposite Saturn, but it's on the 29th, it flips over into its home sign of Libra, where it just loves to be. Everybody gets along. Let's be fair. Let's make sure everybody's happy. Let's have a good time. Let's be beautiful. Let's be harmonious. Libra and Venus, right? So there it is. It moves into that, from that trine with Uranus, it enters Libra. And at the same moment, it also trines to Pluto. And what that's going to do is it makes this like double trine, Venus at the apex with Pluto and Uranus. And they kind of swing through that for a couple of days where there's a lot, and that means that Pluto is trine to Uranus. So there's a grand trine with Venus at the apex. These grand trines are generally pretty beneficial, right? Because it's all moving synergistically with each other, but we've got these two heavy planets, Uranus, with the surprising changes it can bring, the earthquakes in our reality or in our world, like physical world. Pluto is the unconscious. It's power, it's the underground, it's the plutonic realms, it's what we can't see, it's the hidden, it's the lies, it's the manipulations behind the scenes, right? It can be some heavy stuff, but it's also a beautiful source of power. Like, we all have seen our Star Wars, and we know that ultimately they realize, oh, the force is all one. It's just you got to not polarize into one or the other, right? So Pluto is a powerful planet that's doing a lot of work on us all the time. Right now, it's at 0 degrees of Aquarius, about ready to pop back into Capricorn to finish up its last little bit with all of those Capricornian structure things that it's been doing since 2008. And it finally gets to move out of there by November. But it's still in Aquarius. Venus is in Leo, moves into Libra in its little power spot. And Uranus is in Taurus, the earth sign, also ruled by Venus. So we've got this really intense kind of opportunity here for some real growth and change in the way we relate to reality, to the world, to ourselves, to everything. At the same time, and I'm going to mention this over and over again, like most astrologers, there's also Neptune involved there, because Neptune happens to be at the same time sextile to Pluto and sextile to Uranus. That little triangle there called a minor grand trine is going to go on till 2027, 2028, and it's going to peak around 2026. Right now, we've got some retrogrades, and it's not an exact alignment, but it's definitely within orb and causing us to like our unconscious to be pulling up things out of our dream worlds, Neptune, and our ideals and our spirituality and our religiosity, our philosophy is all kind of getting stirred up with that sextile. And Uranus is also sextile to Neptune, meaning, man, it's just flip-flopping. We're changing everything. Spirituality is rising up. Now, these are long-term things, but here comes Venus, and it's going to trine Pluto and Uranus while that's going on. So it's just bound to be kind of an epic end of August. We're just, as we move into September, we're going to feel some evolution, and we should be feeling some evolution. It won't be comfortable, but it will be beneficial because of that. It's all trines and sextiles, right? um, I have to trust the universe that even when it's square and oppositions and difficult aspects, all for our own good. And it's all how we handle it, how we arrive there, how we dance with what comes up, because we're not just helpless victims. It isn't like the stars are making us do anything. They don't make anything happen. The planets are just simply reflecting what reality is happening down here, and how we personally approach and stand with the energies as they arise makes all the difference on the outcome for us personally and for the world. And so it throws us actually into a deeper responsibility. The fact that, hey, the ocean does waves. It just does waves. How you surf those waves is up to you. Are you scared? Are you forward on it? Are you skillful? Are you practiced? Are you holding back? Are you tired? Are you wiped out? Hey, we all have those moments, right? There's no perfect way to do this dance, but it's important to remember that astrology is never telling you this is how you're going to feel and this is how you're going to act. It just, hey, it's going to be a really intense new moon, full moon, all the way up until the new moon. That Venus trine Pluto is going to be bringing up a lot of unconscious stuff, Pluto retrograde, about our relationships and our finances and our relationships to each other. That goes on for, let's see, August 24th to September 3rd. So we've got a little while, right? It peaks, but it also has a wave cycle. Let's see. Oh, yes. And then we get Mars square to Neptune. That shows up August 25th to September 9th, and the exact on September 3rd, which is technically the day after the new moon, but it's really powerful. And, something that Phina mentioned was anger, right? Mars square to Neptune can bring up some frustration about that nebulous stuff that Neptune's all about, which is, what's the absolute ultimate truth? It can make us motivated to go seek it. It can also make us really frustrated and angry. We can also impulsively leap after what we think are solutions. I know, right? Because that Mars wants to know. Neptune, nobody knows. It's the mystery. It's the great unknown, right? So we've got this little square going on, and she mentioned asking your guides for help. And the guides, they dwell in the Neptune realms. They're in the upper realms. They're in the far other side realms. They're over there, whatever you want to like three-dimensional, try to conceive that. But asking for like, what needs to happen? Why am I angry? Is my anger justified? What do I do with this anger if it comes up, right? Because Mars just does that. And then finally we get to the new moon, September 2nd. And so we'll do a whole report on that. But there's a rundown. It's not everything. I do my weeklies. So if you really want to get into the details, obviously just look up my website, shivoso.com, or look on Instagram and see the written details about all of these T-squares, this full moon. I just want you to have a good time, because potentially this could be a really good time. There's a lot of juice in the air. Just watch out for people pulling trips on you, and getting you involved in dramas that aren't responsible dramas. They're not going anywhere. They're victim dramas, because there's a lot of that flying around in the world right now. And you don't want to lose your agency by becoming a victim or engaging in victim dramas. That's a whole video all in itself, you know. But anyway, I think that pretty well covers it, Phina. What do you think?
Well, I thought it was really great, and I'm really so grateful that every time that I forget something that you actually also pick that up. Somehow we balance that out. It's really nice. And this time it was the unveiling of things. It's true. I had this joke in my mind with Isis Unveiled, which is a book on esoteric knowledge, but it's actually a joke about the veil is going to drop. You know, everything. Well,
Yeah,
at least there could be some really interesting truths coming to light, or things
there
that
definitely
we
are.
perceive as true.
The veils are
So
thick.
whether it's
That
personal or in the world, then it can both happen. So I'm really curious
yeah.
to what is going to happen.
Fortunately, we have some years to do this, you know. I mean, it'll be a different world in 20 by the time 2030 rolls around. But that sextile with Neptune and Pluto and Uranus and the trine between Uranus and Pluto, making that little minor grand trine just goes on for, and that's the veils thinning, like unexpectedly, people converting to religious practices, people awakening to true realities, right? People also getting lost in delusion, because that's just part of Neptune too, is that there are false prophets, false gods, false paths that
Mm.
we can get trapped into, especially if we think we know, right? Because um, we can speculate and we can guess and we can ask and we can listen, but we just third dimensional meat brains just don't really know. There's only a Gnostic knowing. There's a knowing without being able to say. And that's where,
I love how you put that 3D meat brains.
yeah,
Well, yeah, it's true. It's true. It's we don't always have the capacity to, or let's say it like this: we have to be really careful to listen our to the guidance that we are receiving, and then taking time with it to integrate it and to ask for more pointers and for more knowledge before our minds are saying like it is like this, because then it's becoming something fixed, like
yep,
the
like I
religions
know,
that are out there and the way they are being put on to people, so to keep a
creates a lot of
more
evil
open
in the
mind
world.
and
I'm,
feel it out.
I'm reminded of Socrates, the oracle at Delphi said at one point Socrates was the wisest man on earth. You know, who knows what that means, but when he heard that, he said, I don't know anything.